has a straight edge on it, so it's very easy. And maybe in our world here, there lives a happy little mountain.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Caitlin and I do a whole bunch of different types of videos on this channel, mainly revolving around sort of true crime, mysteries, disappearances, anything along those lines, with a little bit of like fashion and lifestyle sprinkled in there whenever I can. So if that sounds like something you enjoy, then definitely go and check out all my other videos because I have a lot on my channel. So today I thought I would discuss a case that is actually really fascinating. I've never heard of it before, but when I read it I was just completely baffled, and there aren't loads of theories because it's kind of sort of one of those ones where we don't know what happened and it's almost just, the whole thing is very strange. So I will just get into it. So the case that I'm going to be talking about today is not only the disappearance but also the crimes, the original crimes of a man named Adam Emery. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. So basically just a very quick summary of the case I'm going to be covering in this video. Adam Emery was a man who committed a very serious crime, and then upon awaiting his trial, his actual sentencing, he disappeared with his wife. So that's kind of what happened, and there's a lot to do with how strange all of the circumstances are. It's kind of something very interesting to discuss, so that's why I thought I'd bring it to you today. So I will start from the beginning with the actual crimes of Adam Emery himself. So it all begins on the 30th of August 1990 when 28-year-old Adam Emery and his wife Elena Emery, they were out with another couple and they decided in the evening time to go and stop for dinner at, I think it was like a seafood restaurant like stand. So the four of them were there having dinner at this seafood stand. At around 9 PM at this point, a car came racing around the corner of the street they were on. It just appeared out of nowhere, swerved around the corner, and as it did so, it was at like an insane speed. It clipped Adam's car, it caught his car, continued driving, and then drove off, sped off around the corner, and that was it. Because this insanely fast driving car caught his car, it scratched it I think, or dented it or something, kept on driving, so Adam and his wife decided to jump in their car and drive after it. So they were in this car, they were following sort of the direction that they saw it leaving, and then the next thing you know, Elena spots the actual speeding car in the distance and she points at it and goes, "That's the car, let's follow them." Inside the car they were following two young men. So the guy driving was 20-year-old Jason Bass, and then in the passenger seat was his cousin around the same age who was named Joshua Post. Adam and Elena caught up to their car in their car, bearing in mind they believed this was the car that hit them, and without kind of any introduction, Adam got out of his car, started racing towards the young men's car. He was shouting, he was saying, "I'm going to kick your butts." He was even heard saying, "I'm going to kill you." He was just in this fit of rage towards these two young boys who were still in their car at this time. Adam just approached them in their car, kind of swearing and shouting at them. So since the incident, Joshua, the cousin, the man in the passenger seat, said he's been on record and said just how angry Adam was. He said that he'd never seen a man look as angry as Adam did in that moment for some reason. At this point, Adam was getting himself more and more worked up, he was becoming more and more aggressive, and then the next thing they know, he jumps on the hood of their car and pulls out a knife that he'd apparently been carrying. He was obviously hiding. He pulled out this knife and was on the hood of the car while Jason and Joshua were still inside. So Adam was still in a fit of rage, and he was still at this point shouting at them while also trying to stab Jason with the knife through the window. So obviously Jason didn't really have time to roll up his window. It was kind of a very quick incident. All he could try and do was put the car into reverse in hopes of kind of shaking Adam off the hood of his car. Unfortunately, he was too late and Adam stabbed Jason straight through the heart, meaning that he died instantly.
Joshua Post will never forget the day his cousin was killed, pronounced dead right before his eyes.
I didn't want to believe him.
It was August 1990. 20-year-old Jason Bass had just been stabbed in the heart in a road rage incident, mistaken for the person who sideswiped a car at Rocky Point. That car belonged to Adam Emery, who chased Bass down local roads before confronting him on someone's front lawn.
So obviously this crime is absolutely horrendous. Obviously, you know, murdering anyone is an awful thing to do. But it also seemed particularly strange, and friends and family of Adam have said how strange it is, that behaviour alone for Adam. It's so erratic, and it was just something that he isn't like. He isn't typically like that. So for him to go so mad and kind of so outraged when this car hit his car, it was just very out of character for him, and they said that they'd never believed that Adam would be someone to do something like that. So not long after the incident, police officials arrived on the scene, and now to make things worse, so obviously like I said, this crime in itself is already horrendous. Murdering Jason Bass, who was 20 years old, he was just in his car and he was stabbed through the heart. It was awful anyway, but what made it worse is when police investigators arrived on the scene, they were able to determine pretty quickly that it was actually in fact not Jason and Joshua who hit Adam's car. So I have a quote here from a Detective Hopkins who was working on the case. So he/she said, "The Ford Limited that was being driven by Jason Bass was not the vehicle that hit Adam Emery's car. They took paint chips off Adam's car and they tested those paint chips with the paint of Jason Bass's car and proved conclusively that it was a different vehicle that struck Adam Emery's car that evening," which just makes Adam's actions even more ridiculous, and it just shows Jason Bass in this instance was completely innocent. He had been driving along with his cousin and then all of a sudden flagged down by this young couple who, without even saying a word to this man, came at him with a knife and killed him. It's absolutely awful. It just shows how innocent Jason was in this instance, and it's absolutely tragic that he unfortunately lost his life that day. So then on the flip side of things, not only showing how innocent Jason Bass was in this instance, it just shows how erratic Adam's behaviour was, because he didn't even know for sure if that was the person who'd hit his car that night. So not only is that a ridiculously outrageous response to someone clipping your car, but also not even being 100% sure that that was the person that did so is absolutely insane to go and kill that person. And like I said, everyone that knew Adam said it was extremely strange. He was never aggressive, he was never in trouble with the law. It just seemed so strange that all of a sudden he would have this outburst to something so seemingly minor to eventually kill someone because of it. It was very strange, and it was even noted that during his trial he didn't really show any remorse for killing Jason. He just, throughout the entire trial, maintained the fact that he had killed Jason in self-defense, which obviously we know is not the case. So Adam's trial actually ended on November 10th, 1993, which was his 31st birthday. He was found guilty of second-degree murder, but he wouldn't actually receive his official formal sentencing for another month after that. So in the meantime, the judge granted his bail. He said he was free on bail until awaiting his formal sentencing. So even after being found guilty of second-degree murder, he was allowed to remain a free man for a month. But then on that evening of November 10th, 1993, the whole case surrounding Adam Emery became even stranger. At around 7 p.m. that evening, a bridge supervisor working on the Newport Bridge in Rhode Island was alerted to an abandoned car that was apparently just blocking one of the lanes on the bridge. Upon receiving this information, the bridge supervisor called a state trooper, and together they went to investigate this car. The car was found to be empty, with the engine still running and the headlights still on, like I said, just parked on the bridge blocking one of the lanes. There were a number of things that they found inside the car. So in the back seat they found a few items of clothing, both male and female, just folded neatly on one of the back seats. And then in the front of the car they found a driver's license, some cash and cut up credit cards, and from this driver's license they were able to determine virtually immediately that the car belonged to Adam Emery. And from the state of the scene, it had appeared as though Adam and his wife Elena had chosen to end their lives by jumping off of Newport Bridge. So obviously they alerted officials, and because of this discovery, police investigators began to be able to sort of collect information to work out the timeline of that day of where Adam and Helena had been after the trial had ended. So at 3 p.m. that evening, Adam and Elena left the trial together, and then at 3:30 p.m. they were seen entering a shop which sold pretty much just like sporting goods, sporting equipment. The manager of this store recalled seeing them and speaking to them. He said none of them seemed out of the ordinary. They both seemed talkative, interested in what they were buying, and literally just like nothing was unusual. Inside the shop, the couple bought sweatsuits. They bought a specific brand of socks each, and then they also bought a large amount of strap-on weights, which obviously pointed more and more towards the instance where people, like the scenario in which they killed themselves by jumping off a bridge. Although something that became kind of seemingly strange, so bear in mind police officials were taking into account the most likely scenario was that they had jumped off the bridge. So the person who served them in the store said that they particularly remembered Adam and Elena because Adam seemed particularly shocked at the overall kind of cost of everything they bought. So when they kind of put it through the till, he was extremely like taken aback by the overall price, how expensive it was buying all those items, which seems just seems like strange behaviour if you're going to take your own life, because you wouldn't really worry about money. So that is something that became quite strange when they were kind of investigating the likelihood that they had killed themselves. At 4:45 p.m, Adam and Elena had left a fast food restaurant where they'd eaten dinner, and then they drove to Newport Bridge. 5 minutes later, a witness had seen them walking along the walkway of the bridge, and then by 5:15 p.m, they had driven away from the bridge. And then another 2 hours later, at 7 p.m, this was when their abandoned car was discovered back on the bridge. An extensive search was carried out to determine whether they could find some sort of sign of what happened to Adam and Elena, whether that be find their bodies. So they searched the water beneath the bridge, they searched everywhere they could in hopes of just being sure, like being 100% certain of what happened to Adam and Elena that day. So it was at this point that the detective working on the case, their attention was drawn to a tape that had been taken of Adam and Elena just after they had received word of Adam's guilty verdict in the courtroom. So there was a lip reader, they brought a lip reader in to look at this tape to try and determine what they were saying, because obviously it was just kind of like CCTV footage. So the lip reader determined that Elena had said to Adam, "We're going to do what we originally said you promised me." This meant that they had already had a plan to do something. What that plan was, we don't know, but they'd obviously had some sort of discussion of what they were going to do if he was found guilty. Obviously the likelihood, or the main likely scenarios, would be either to end their lives or possibly to run away if they had had some sort of secret plan to do something. They seemed like the two most likely options that people would choose. Less than a year went by with absolutely no sign of what happened to either of them. It was put down to a mystery, really. Some people believe that they'd run away and faked their deaths. Some people believe they actually did kill themselves. There was not really any certainty. So like I said, just under a year later, a fisherman was working in a bay sort of near the bridge, around the bridge waterfront, when he caught in his net 2 human leg bones. A piece of sock that was attached to one of the bones that, when tested, was later determined to match the specific type of sock that was bought by the couple in the sporting goods shop just before they went missing. Authorities had taken DNA from both Elena and Adam's family, and because of the DNA provided by Elena's mother and her sister, they were able to determine that the bones discovered belonged to Adam Emery. So obviously this was when they were virtually sure that Elena was dead. And then a couple weeks later, a human skull was found in another bay not far from where the leg bones were found, and this was conclusively determined to belong to Elena. As a result of these discoveries, investigators were able to conclude that Elena had either died that day that she went missing or not long after, and because of the way they found her, they believed it was most likely that she did end her life by jumping off that bridge that day.
The divers went into the water near the center of the Newport Bridge.
It's a mystery that has lingered on for more than a quarter of a century.
You never take somebody off the most wanted list if there's no closure to it.
The couple may have jumped to their deaths here.
Where is Adam Emery?
Either they're found or they're dead.
Adam Emery allegedly jumped off the Newport Bridge with his wife Elena after he was convicted of second-degree murder.
Guilty.
On November 10, 1993, in the stabbing death of 20-year-old Jason Bass, while the remains of Elena washed up months later, Adam has never been found.
The takeaway is great for me as the future goes to start looking at some cold cases, and it was crystal clear from listening to the interviews of the victim's family. You can't let it go.
So in terms of Adam's fate, what happened to Adam, there is still no sign of anything really, as some people argue that Adam's remains are likely to still be in the bay because, you know, it took Elena so long to come to surface, so why wouldn't it take Adam so long to come to surface? But like I said, there's just so many questions and so many different beliefs on what people has happened to Adam. So some people believe that they both jumped off the bridge that day. Some people believe that Elena took her own life but Adam ran away, or some even say that Adam went as far to convince Elena to end her life to make it appear like they both had. and then he could, you know, get away. He was actually declared as legally dead in 2004 because there were absolutely no signs of what happened to Adam. But then in 2010, despite being declared legally dead, he was actually put on the FBI's most wanted list. So there was obviously a strong suspicion, like a lot of people out there obviously believe enough that he is still alive and on the run because of his guilty verdict, that he didn't actually kill himself that day and only Elena did. So yeah, that's everything I'm going to talk about today. Let me know down below what you think could have happened. In my personal opinion, I think in all likelihood he is still alive. I think in these sort of situations it isn't uncommon for the guilty person to run away. I don't know whether he killed Elena or whether she did commit suicide. You know, you get a lot of couples making pacts to save one another, and things like that. But I don't know about Elena's circumstances, but I think in all likelihood Adam is most likely still alive. So let me know what you think down below. It's a very, very, awful case because of Jason Bass's death. He was completely innocent, and it's awful that he had to die that way. And the whole case surrounding Adam, his behaviours, it's just all very strange. So that's why I wanted to discuss it today and to get your guys' opinions on it, see what you guys thought. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I will see you guys soon for another video. Bye.